وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا.
Are you looking for me to entertain you again? Huh? I don't have time for that. Instead, I'm establishing a mega masjid and Dawah center with IslamNet. I want you to join this massive Dawah endeavor. So click the link below and donate now.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, and welcome to another episode of our Ramadan series where we uncover the hypocrisy of Islamophobes, debunk their baseless claims, and present the truth with clarity and evidence. In today's episode, we'll be addressing the claims of Al-Fadi, a former Muslim from Saudi Arabia who is now a Christian. Al-Fadi, who has built an entire YouTube channel centered around attacking Islam. Instead of focusing on spreading his own beliefs, he dedicates most of his content to misrepresent and distort Islam, an obsession that speaks volumes for Islam's truth. Because if we Muslims were to highlight the inconsistencies in the biblical texts, it wouldn't take years worth of videos to do so. In the specific video we are addressing today, he and his guest, Rob Christian, make the outrageous claim that God of Muslims, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Satan in disguise, astaghfirullah. Because some of Allah's beautiful names, according to them, have negative meanings. As an example, they discuss Al-Makir, a name Allah uses for himself in the Quran. He quotes the Quranic chapter number 3, verse 54, which states, "And the disbelievers made a plan against Jesus, but Allah also planned, and Allah is the best of planners." They argue that Muslim scholars manipulate its meaning to make it sound positive, translating it as the planner, while in reality any Arabic speaker would know that this word only carries negative connotations. Let's hear what he has to say.
I dare anyone to go to an Arabic-speaking president or a boss, just a boss in general at your workplace and say, hey, you look like al-makir, a deceiver to me. And let me know if that boss took it lightly and took it positively. If they don't take it that way, how can you call Allah this way?
Yeah. And Allah in chapter 3, Surah Ali Imran, ayah 54, he used this name.
And here is the troubling part. They call those the beautiful names of Allah. What is so beautiful about these?
فَيَضُلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Meaning Allah misguides,
Right?
Allah the misguider, he misguides whoever he likes and he guides whoever he likes. So basically, in the hands of Allah, you're nothing but a puppet, and Allah is the puppeteer. If Allah for one day decides, even if you are the best Muslim, you are doing zakat, you're praying 5 times a day, Allah one day can decide for you to misguide you out of Islam. So why should you trust Allah?
So he's quoting from the Quran, chapter 3, verse 54, and he's claiming that Muslims translate this word as planner when it actually means deceiver. Akhi Mohammed,
Yes, sir.
what do you have to say to these outrageous claims?
Well, first and foremost, the Quran never calls Allah al-Makir. And I challenge him or anybody else to find such a verse. Well, I mean, his name is Al-Fadi, you said, right? And if it's Al-Fadi, it means empty in the Arabic language, since he's meant to be an Arabic expert. So I think his claims are also vacuous, just
Yes.
like his name. Having said that, I mean, the word Al-Makir does not actually present itself in the Quran for Allah at all. Al-Makir doesn't exist in the Quran for Allah. So this is a lie, in fact. Of course, there is a verse that says, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ, that they planned. Now, many translators do translate this as, and they planned and Allah planned.
Yep.
But actually, this is the wrong translation. I will tell you why and give you the evidence, but this is an incorrect translation. The correct translation of this is, and they planned and Allah uncovered their plan. And I'll give you the reason for this in a second. There is something in Arabic rhetoric called al-mushakala. If you look at Al-Qazwini or any of the authorities in Arabic language, this thing is very well known. And it's basically a figure of speech, al-mushakala. So for example, Allah mentions in the Quran in Surah Al-Shura, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا. وَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. That if you wanted to literalistically translate this, okay, you would translate it as, and the recompense of a sin is a sin like it. Meaning what? Meaning if I do a sin to me, if you do a sin to me, I can do it to you. Well, the Quran never endorses sin. Sayyi'ah is used twice. The word sayyi'ah is used twice.
But you can say it's like a bad thing, right, as well?
Yeah, so if we took this verse to mean jaza'u sayyi'ah, that the word sayyi'ah means in the second usage means sin, then you have to claim that Allah is encouraging the ibad to commit sins, which is incorrect.
Yeah.
What this verse should be translated as is that وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا, that if someone does some harmful action to you, you can retaliate in kind. That's how this verse should be translated. Likewise, this verse, when Allah mentions وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهِ, it should be translated in line with Arabic convention. And once again, anybody can Google, if you're talking about, you can Google al-mushakala. This is a very well-known principle in Arabic grammar, balagha Arabiya. And وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهِ is an example that the rhetoricians actually use for mushakala. Notwithstanding that fact, who cares anyway? What does this do? Let's say, for example, even though, as I say once before, and I'll say again, no one actually affirms this quality and says that Allah's one of his names is al-Makr. No one, I don't know of anyone who says that that's one of his names. Salafi, Ash'ari, Maturidi, any of the schools of thought. No one actually ascribes that. No. Al-Makr is not one of the 99 names of Allah. That's a lie.
But the Quran does that, Allah, Wallahu khairul makirin.
Yeah, as I mentioned, but they don't say Al-Makr. You have al-mutakabbir, for example. Does that
make a difference here?
It makes a difference because there are some things which are asma for Allah or sifat, which, let's say for the sake of Allah, even if we go with it, and it's a sifa, it's an attribute of Allah, they don't make it into an actual name of Allah. So that's another important point. The point I'm making here is that this is what you call ujma. Someone who does not understand the Arabic language, doesn't understand figures of speech in Arabic, probably is reading a translation. I can guarantee you this man has not done any Arabic studies. And obviously his friend David Wood, I've seen him with him before as well. He doesn't know anything as well. So they've tried to cover up because in 2018, when they were decisively annihilated because of the Arabic language, and one of the main reasons...
You all saw that.
Yeah, but one of the main reasons why David Wood was decisively annihilated was due to his ujma or lack of Arabic knowledge. So they tried to bring in some Arabs. But just because you're from Arab background, it doesn't mean that you have knowledge of the Arabic language.
That's true.
Al-sarf, wal-nahw, and al-balagh. It doesn't mean you have that knowledge. You don't have it.
The majority of Arabs doesn't have that knowledge.
Exactly. And so this actually became well known to us, especially when he started saying, well, if you go to your boss in Arabic, who said the dialectical Arabic of present day should be used as a barometer for any kind of classical Arabic of the past in the first place? So this is not an academic, nor is this an academic argument. That's why this kind of thing you will not be found in peer-reviewed journals. And they can continue making weak arguments like this because they'll be making our jobs easier. So another point we can add to this is just as an example of mushakala, or just an example of not play on words, but figurative speech, is فَمَنْ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ فَاعْتَدُوا عَلَيْهِ بِمِثْلِ مَا اعْتَدُوا عَلَيْكُمْ. Right? Whoever transgresses against you, then transgress against them the way that they transgress against you. Yeah? Now, in Islam, you're not allowed to transgress against anyone, right?
That's true. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So it's inconceivable that the second i'tadat that's mentioned in this verse is Allah instructing us to transgress and rebel against anyone's rights. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So this is an example, chapter 2, verse 190, of al-mushakala al-lughawiyya. It has to be an example of that.
Okay.
Otherwise, if we don't say that, then we're attributing fundamental errors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, commanding his believers to do transgression, to commit sins, etc., etc.
And that's what these people would say, though.
Yeah, but that's a misunderstanding of Arabic. Okay, someone could argue. I'll give you another really strong argument here. Yeah.
Okay.
That someone could argue this is the Quran. You're only inventing those rules because you're seeing issues in the Quran.
Yeah, they could say that.
That's the argument.
They could
right?
definitely say that.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
Okay, I can argue to you in response, this is used in Arabic Jahili poetry. And I'm going to give you one example of that. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. It's a nabigha.
Hey you, are you watching my videos again? Pause that and do something for your akhirah first. IslamNet is establishing a Scandinavian mega mosque and Dawah center in Oslo, the fastest growing city in Europe. Do you want to share in that reward? Click the link below and donate now.
Yeah, so someone could argue, okay, so I've just mentioned 2 or 3 examples in the Quran.
Yeah.
فَمَنْ اعْتَدَى عَلَيْكُمْ أَوْ أَجْزَاءُ سَيِّئَةً
Yes.
وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ. I say it's the same thing. Okay, someone will say, well, you're just saying that now because you're trying to find ways, okay, to patch up this problem that you have in the Quran. You can't make a circular argument. The grammarian or rhetorician or the linguist will say, you can't make a circular argument by referring to the Quran itself as a self-reference and then try to, I say, fine, I don't necessarily agree with your premise, but for the sake of argument, I'll say the following. That you have pre-Islamic poetry, which has what is referred to as a mushakala, or this idea of a figure of speech. And probably the best example I can give of this is the mu'allaqa of al-Nabigha al-Dhubiyani. Al-Nabigha was one of the people who wrote mu'allaqat.
Okay.
These were the poems that were hung up on the Kaaba before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before the Quran was
This is
revealed.
before
essentially.
Islam, right?
Before Islam.
All right.
So that's why they're called Jahili poetry.
Yes.
So one of the things that he had mentioned, and Nabigh al-Dhubiyani had mentioned in his poems, أَلَا يَجْهَلَنَّ أَحَدٌ عَلَيْنَا فَنَجْهَلُ فَوْقَ جَهْلِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Okay, so this is a very important. He says, أَلَا يَجْهَلَنَّ أَحَدٌ عَلَيْنَا. If someone becomes jahil with us, the word jahil is mentioned, okay? Jahil, okay? Then we will become more jahil with them, higher level of jahil.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see here the word jahil, فَنَجْهَلُ فَوْقَ جَهْلِ الْجَاهِلِينَ, is not the same as the first word.
Yeah.
It means we will respond to them. It's a very similar thing as, which is that also say yeah.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say to you is, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the Arabic language. It's a fundamental misunderstanding. Having said that,
Because no one would attribute being a jahil to themselves.
Exactly. It's the word jahil has different meaning here. And here the word jahil means wild. Okay, someone who's acting erratically and whatever.
Yeah.
But فَنَجْهَلُ فَوْقَ جَهْلِ الْجَاهِلِينَ, it's not saying that we'll become completely jahil in this manner.
Yeah.
It's saying that we will respond in a certain way.
Yeah.
So the word jahil is used in 2 different senses, and this has its evenness in the English language. This kind of approach is in the English language, but we're going into a different field here. This is in English literature.
Yeah.
Another point I would like to make is that this is mentioned in the Bible. So it's mentioned that, "O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived." This is what is mentioned in the Bible, you see. And there are many verses like this, but I'm just giving you one of them.
So who's making this claim?
I'm saying that the Old Testament, the
Yeah.
New Testament even, but the Old Testament, the whole Bible has words like this, has plotting and scheming and deception of God.
Right.
It's all over the Bible.
And this is not even the same as we mentioned. This is not someone else doing something and then Allah only attributing like the same or the as the mushakala that you mentioned.
exactly.
Yeah? It's not that. This is like clear
Yeah, it's clear cut.
cut.
There's no linguistic thing here. So in fact, if you find this problematic, once again, you've shot yourself in the foot because Islam doesn't have anything clear cut in that regard.
Exactly.
But guess what does? Judaism and Christianity.
That's the problem.
So if that's a real problem for you, you should leave Christianity and you should embrace Islam. But I'm sure this Fadi, this empty one, is going to be as vacuous as his name suggests, and is going to remain on the falsehood of his friends and compatriots and his slave masters that have put him under their thumb.
Brothers and sisters, you guys have seen. These guys are just making baseless claims, allegations with no substance whatsoever. But unfortunately, people are being misguided because of this.
Can you imagine?
It's crazy. And we need to do something about that.
We need to, and this is why IslamNet is doing a stellar job, a magnificent job, a phenomenal job in being able to, number one, afford us the luxuries and the opportunities to be able to film here, to research here, to speak here, and then for us to disseminate this information on the biggest platforms that we have. This is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but one that has been facilitated by the generous donations of the people at home. And I'm sure in this time, in this very, very special time in Ramadan, you're not going to be letting this opportunity slide, are you? you're a good man, you're a good woman, you're a person who wants to see the dissemination of Islamic material, and you will do that, inshallah ta'ala, and we will make dua for you as well. All it takes is really 20 or 30 seconds.
That's true.
20 or 30 seconds, and what you've done is maybe helped thousands, maybe even millions of people. I think it's a no-brainer. I think you do it with your eyes closed.
I think especially when we see that the far right movement is on the rise.
Yes.
When people who are anti-Muslims, clear anti-Muslims, are becoming presidents of the mightiest nations of the world.
Unbelievable.
And we see that these guys are funding the Islamophobia. There's an industry out there.
We saw what's happened with the grooming gang thing recently. They want to attribute anything negative to Islam.
Yes.
Anything negative. And, Elon Musk is doing this, and this person is doing that person, Twitter, social media, everything. Bro, this is the only way we can fight back.
Yes.
I would like the public to point me to a direction in the English-speaking language or in the West in general, where people are coming out and doing this much intellectualized work that's reaching this much people. Please find me the people that are doing it. You know this is where the premier service is. You know this is where the gold standard is. And so if you know this is where it is, in terms of reach and in terms of product, in terms of quality,
Yes.
why would you not invest in your future, in this country, in your country, in whatever country you're living in, for your family, for your children, for your great-grandchildren? Why not invest in that? That should be a priority for you. And of course, imagine doing that at the same time making an investment that has a perfect return of investment ratio, which is investment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
What does Allah say? What does Allah say about that?
For example, there's one verse, and this is a very powerful one. In Surah Al-Munafiqun, this chapter of the hypocrites. And perhaps we can end with this, what Allah mentions, and I'll recite it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت فيقول ربي لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين. That spend in the path of Allah before death overtake one of you, and you say, "Oh Allah," in regret, you're saying, "Oh Allah, if only I'd gone back. And the first thing you mention, give charity. Give charity. Subhanallah. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, and I will be one of the good people. Allah connects salah, being good, with charity. This is your opportunity. What are you going to do? Assalamu alaikum.